So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, so with that, we can kind of get into the NFL picture. We had a great week with the NFL. There was a lot of great games, a lot of close games, um, just a lot of telling things. So the first game we could really kind of get into and jump into is this the two undefeated teams in the AFC East. The matchup against the Bills and the Dolphins. They it seemed like a really gritty match. It seemed like no team really like going into this. You kind of expect the Bills to really get their offense going, put up a lot of points, put up a lot of just kind of like drive the ball down the field the way they have been all season. But the Dolphins, they put up a fight. The Dolphins played great defense. They played disciplined, and Tua he seemed to get the job done. And this is something that as Dolphins owners and other, if you're a Dolphins fan, you kind of want to see who really is Tua, especially with all these questions, his accuracy and things like that. Is this a fluke? But he kind of proved it. On the big stage, making big time throws, making a lot of plays for his team. When he was out after that little debacle, it was kind of like the Dolphins kind of looked flat. So it's like obviously he's that spark plug for them. So
Yeah, and like you said, after that, that weird moment in the game where which we'll talk about later when Tua kind of gets up and stumbles and has to get pulled out of the game. They needed him, and this is a team where one, they're trying to figure out who is Tua, but it also kind of coincides with their team where we've talked about on in previous weeks who are the Dolphins, and uh, we weren't really sure. They had that big comeback against the Ravens. They've this win moves them to 3-0, but 3-0 against some solid competition, right? This is not picking up cheap wins against bad teams.
right,
They played decent teams, Patriots, Ravens, and Bills, and they beat them all. They're
they're all
actually
previous playoff teams.
they're all previous playoff teams, and they've got the job done. And it shows that Tua can do some things. They bring over Tyreek Hill. They've been able to utilize guys like Waddle and things like that, and huge win for them. And right now at this moment, like I said, 3-0, but they also 2-0 in that division, and they're sitting on top of it. They're
Yeah,
up to an early win. So and we saw the frustration with the Bills, right? They trying to mount that comeback late. Obviously, they lost 21-19, but they were kind of moving into field goal range and they couldn't get it off. And we see now the viral video of their staff up in the their coordinators flipping
just
out
going
and
crazy.
banging everything. But yeah, I mean that's frustrating when you that close and maybe a second or two more of mismanaged time that you might have
Then
been
you
able to
may
get
have
that
been.
field goal off. But
Nah,
yeah, you just couldn't. And they understand how big that
that game
swing is.
is. Yeah,
A win is huge. Now the Bills are 3-0 and they're sitting on the top of the division easy.
right.
But now the Dolphins have it, and the Dolphins have the win against them. So if it's tied
If
head
it
to
head to
head,
head, then they have that.
yeah, they might have that. Obviously, they'll play again later this year. But yeah, still
I
huge.
think with the Dolphins too, what is interesting with them is that with Tua, it's kind of like he's showing that he's going through progressions. He's taking his time, where he's not hurrying. He's being quick, but he's not hurrying. Which is great, which is a great sign. As far as with the Bills, there's kind of some questions. Not I don't want to say with Josh Allen, but me personally, if I'm a head coach, if I'm McDermott, I don't want Josh Allen going trying to truck linebackers to get into the end zone because previous to even the drive of him going down the field, he lowered his shoulder, tried to truck a defender, and it looked like he got a stinger. I don't know, I could be wrong, but from the looks of it, looked like he got a stinger. Next play, couldn't make a simple out route that he's showed us time and time again that he could throw.
Hmm.
Um, wasn't on time. He wasn't able to throw it, and it's kind of like that's kind of uh that's kind of what happens when you're kind of that physical quarterback when you don't value, all right, if it's not there, let me throw it away, live for another down. But again, I mean, he's obviously a great runner, but that's something that I think they should limit a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's something that you do want to take advantage of his skills, but you want to limit that. You don't want him doing too much of that. Sometimes when it's necessary, okay, but you want to keep that down to a minimum because at the end of the day, he is your quarterback. You don't want to
Right.
get hurt. I mean, we've seen things, and obviously, Josh Allen, he's built to a
To
little
take
bit
that
better
kind
than
of
these
beating.
quarterbacks. But we've seen guys like Derek Carr try to fight for that extra yard in the first for a first
Right.
down in previous years and get
And
smoked.
get
And
yeah, and then
now
next thing you know,
you
you're
lose your
dealing with the
quarterback,
injury.
right? And you can't have that. So
Right.
hopefully the Bills can figure that out.
And speaking of injured quarterbacks, we have the Patriots Ravens game. The Ravens took care of business against the Patriots, 37-26. But obviously, we have Mac Jones. He's out with an injury, I believe an ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a couple of games, which is kind of unfortunate because there was a lot of questions with their offense, but it seemed like they got going. We have the Bengals and the Jets. The another AFC East loss, unfortunately. But I mean, the Jets are the Jets. The Bengals took care of business. Joe Burrow did what he had to do, and we have the Packers Bucks, which was a pretty good game. It was also another defensive kind of slugfest. Again, no offense really could get going. We obviously seen the struggles with Tom Brady not having his main receivers. Again, these even with Aaron Rodgers, these old quarterbacks, not that it's bad that they're old, but they want to trust their receivers. And you can tell early on in the season that's where you really build these relationships, this chemistry between these receivers. Um Bucks not having Mike Evans was significant,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, huge loss. Not having Mike Evans, they're already dealing with too many injuries, really, at the receiver position. To have Mike Evans suspended for a huge game, matchup of two solid teams that, everyone expects both of these guys to make the playoffs, regardless of the outcome of this game. But to
right.
not have Mike Evans there is a huge loss. They've kind of already been struggling, really, on the offensive end
Yeah.
and really trying to find their way there. The Bucks have actually been great on defense this year.
Yeah, that's their strong point. And then it's kind of also like you may meet this team in the NFC Championship
Right.
or in a divisional. Um, if if the Bucks continue to play well and the Packers continue to play well, who knows? Maybe they're fighting for that number one seed, and that head to head is what decides it. So
Right, for
it's
sure.
it's it's unfortunate, but that's just the reality. Unfortunately, I think Tom Brady obviously he's had some problems with other receivers. Russell Gage was dropping wide open passes. Um, I mean, you can't really expect too much from Cole Beasley, but he was at least somewhat reliable.
Hmm.
But I think they'll shape out things. I think they'll be able to get back on track. I mean, it is the Bucks. It's Tom Brady. They're gonna find a way.
Yeah,
So
and they did keep it close, and there was that whole fiasco as well with Aaron Rodgers saying, the scoreboard kind of revealed some
yeah,
information that helped them win, which we haven't really found out what exactly that
exactly it
was
was.
yet,
Yeah.
but that's an interesting thing that all sorts of conspiracy theories and people trying to figure out what that's about.
Yeah, try to figure out what's going on with that. So with that, we have another divisional rival from the Bucks. We have the Panthers and Saints game. Panthers won that 22-14. Kind of didn't expect that. Chris Olave had a great game, big game, another 100-yard receiving game. He seems to be kind of like the front runner of the offensive rookie of the year so far.
Hmm.
Although it's only week 4, I believe. He's showing a lot of promise on that offense. There are some questions with Jameis Winston, but I think I think overall the Saints they're going to be all right. Then we have the Jags seem to shock everybody. I mean, we knew the Jags didn't have a healthy. I mean, the Chargers didn't have a healthy Justin Herbert, but the Jags packed them up 38-10,
Hmm.
and Trevor Lawrence is starting to get going. And I think that's something that we talked early on about Doug Peterson and how he would shape things and how he would be possibly a coach of the year. So that's good. Then the big Monday night game with the Cowboys and Giants. What's your thought on that? With the Giants at least.
Yeah, I mean, both teams come into this. uh, you know, surprising in their own ways, right? You know, the Cowboys obviously they lost the opener to the Bucks, and you know, Dak gets injured. Everyone kind of thinks this team is, you know, not doesn't expect much from them. Their backup, Cooper Rush, comes in. They get a win against the Bengals team, which was surprising, where they just kind of got off to an early start. Joe Burrow couldn't get going against that defense, and you know, they roll into MetLife against the Giants, and you know, Giants 2-0 coming into this game, making some noise, people believing in them. They're going against a backup quarterback, and they just don't get the job done. This game was one that really could have went either
Either
way.
way.
It wasn't decided until late. There's a bunch of plays on both sides that you know could have swung this game all over. You know, from the beginning, middle, and end of this game.
Right.
So yeah, I thought the Giants were going to be able to capitalize on the backup quarterback being at home, being hot, and getting a win here. They just couldn't get it done. Their offense was kind of up and down, guys dropping passes. You know, the Cowboys, you know, credit to their defense, they were able to come in and sack Daniel Jones a bunch of times and
Yeah.
really put pressure on him. I mean, you know, really Daniel Jones looked best when he was just able to escape up the pocket and make a throw, and he was able to get some of those things to go good. Saquon obviously had a great run for a touchdown, 30-plus yarder, but you know the Cowboys proved to be a little too much. They were able to.
Their line was just incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, Dexter Lawrence, he was getting constant pressure. Micah Parsons was getting constant pressure. I think, you know, although the Giants were 2-0 and we were facing a backup quarterback, I think Giants fans have a lot to be positive about.
Yeah, I think really
You know.
both of these teams, right?
Yeah.
2-1 after this. Similar situations. I mean, obviously the Giants have a loss against a divisional opponent now.
Right.
But, you know, both teams have things to be happy about, right? The Cowboys pick up another win. They get to, you know, kind of salvage you know, some semblance of being able to get to the playoffs or having a winning season and keeping a shot at winning this division without Dak. And the Giants, you know, they're 2-0, but they were 2-0 and they take the loss here. But being 2-1, I think if you could have asked any Giants fan if that was going to happen, they would have
wouldn't
took it
guess
before
that.
this. They'll take that every day after the past few seasons they have.
Yeah, and then on top of that, it's like, you know, Dable's starting to make a shift in this culture. You can see that the Giants want to play for him. You can see that the Giants are fired up. They're playing till the snap or till the whistle blows. And then Daniel Jones, you know, he did have the pick that kind of ended things, but the receiver slipped. There's a lot of drops. Daniel Jones was making throws on time. Again, it's just really unfortunate, especially with the receiving core. You know, Sterling Shepard goes down with a non-contact injury. I think they just have to do something about that turf in MetLife. It's like they bring in billions of dollars and you can't even get grass to play on, and that turf is. I mean, the Niners game a few years ago, so many players got
Yeah.
injured that game, and continuously just players after players torn ACLs. Like,
I mean, I'll tell you this: the Giants, just in general, I mean, they built that stadium not too long ago. It's still a relatively new stadium, right?
Right.
And I don't know what they were doing. You know, like they put that stadium by the mall over there in Jersey. I mean, I've heard not great things about going to those games where you have to, you know, pack 50,000 people through this tunnel to get to the
it's
parking lot. If you get there
crazy.
late, there's no shuttles and people have to walk and it's a mess to get out of there. And you know,
Right.
so they didn't set it up right. The stadium, you know, you see other teams that have new stadiums, SoFi and other places like that, state of the art stuff. The Raiders stadium, the Giants kind of just slapped together a stadium. I mean, it's decent, it's not bad,
Right.
but for a New York team that both New York teams use, a stadium that both New York teams use, you would think, you know, they would put some more effort
More
in there.
effort
They
into it.
you could get more out of it, right? And being in a location like that is not the greatest location, but you know, it's just outside of New York City. You get people from Jersey and everywhere else could come in.
Right.
People from New York City could go out to there. It
It's
just
just they just
yeah
have to do something.
they got to figure some things out. There's no excuse for stuff like that. There's no excuse for having turf that's people are tearing
Constantly tearing
ACLs
ACLs,
nonstop.
and
And
it's a
yeah,
every
yeah.
season it's something, and it's a season-ending injury, and it sucks to see Sterling Shepard go down, being that he was kind of like the only reliable receiver aside from Richie James.
And the longest tenure Giant too.
Uh,
So
so
yeah,
I mean that may have been his last game.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, they're talking about that might have been his last game as a Giant. So yeah.
but I mean, in general, hopefully he'll still play. I think he's more than capable of still playing, and maybe
Hmm.
he'll be able to be on a championship team and try to get that ring.
Hmm.
So moving on, we have another divisional game with the Rams and Cardinals. It was kind of a big game for Aaron Donald. He got his 100th sack, which is obviously a huge milestone.
Yeah, huge thing.
So the Rams took care of business 20-12 against the Cardinals. The Cardinals kind of looked, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like Kyler could get going without Demarcus, without DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm sure they're looking forward to having him. So